InvestorIdeas.com podcast.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcast. And today's podcast is sponsored by Cannabis Swiss Corporation, trading on the OTC as CSUI, a fully licensed cannabis cultivation and distribution company in Switzerland for recreational tobacco products and medical CBD oils. And the company's products are laboratory tested to ensure that the end users have access to a standardized and safe and consistent product. And Cannabis Swiss Corp currently sells via distribution network of Swiss retailers and online shops under the retail brand Alpine Cannabis. In today's podcast, we're going to be looking at a few public announcements from NDVA Limited, trading on the TSX Venture as NDVA and the OTCQX as NDVAF. WMD Incorporated, trading on the TSX Venture as WMD and the OTCQX as WDDMF. Waterways Technologies Incorporated, trading on the TSX Venture as WWT, as well as Flower One Holdings Incorporated, trading on the CSE as FONE, and the OTCQX as FLOOF. So first today, starting with NDVA Limited, a leading Canadian cannabis producer of cannabis edibles and other cannabis products, who announced an agreement that it is secured with Medical Cannabis by Shoppers, a subsidiary of Shoppers Drug Mart Incorporated. Now, this agreement will see Bang Chocolate and Wana Sour Gummies sold through the Medical Cannabis by Shoppers businesses, including Bang THC Milk Chocolate, Bang THC Dark Chocolate, Bang CBD Dominant Milk Chocolate, the Bang Caramel Dark Chocolate, and the THC CBD 1-to-1, as well as the Wana Sour Gummies in many of their flavors. Now, the Medical Cannabis by Shoppers online platform has been a very trusted and convenient source of quality medical cannabis, providing patients with single source access to a broad range of products. We are thrilled about this agreement with Medical Cannabis by Shoppers Incorporated, which will see our best-in-class cannabis edibles reach the medical cannabis market, said Neil Marotta, the president and CEO of NDVA. We're eager to give these patients across the country access to different forms of medical cannabis. Both Bang and Wana have reputations as high-quality products, and we're excited to see them become legitimate options for the medical cannabis consumers across Canada. Now, Bang Chocolate and Wana Sour Gummies are expected to be on sale online through the Medical Cannabis by Shoppers website, which is shoppersdrugmart.ca/cannabis, in the next coming days. So I've mentioned a lot that there's more and more products coming to the Medical Cannabis by Shoppers Drug Mart program. Now we've seen NDVA Limited, well known within the recreational space, both in the US and Canada, for their Bang and Wana products, and now going to be available to the Medical Cannabis by Shoppers program. I do think that what will be interesting to see is if they change the dosage levels, which I'm hoping they do, and I think that that's what's going to eventually lead to changing the dosage levels for the recreational market in Canada, as well as other parts of the world. I do think that hopefully once these products are accessible to the medical community, and especially through the Shoppers Drug Mart program where they are paying so much to patient data, which is really good, but they're also going to start realizing that a 10 milligram dose of any of these chocolates or edibles is pretty much worthless to the medical community. And especially for CBD products, it's exactly worthless. So hopefully we're going to see a bunch of different dose versions of these products become available, similar to what we've seen in the US market. And then hopefully from there will be some results about the efficacy of these dosage levels, the safety of them, and also the demand for them. I'm hoping that the combination of that data over the next year or so will be enough to inform policymakers to change a lot of these very, very strange limits that we have within the Canadian recreational market for any of the Cannabis 2.0 products. And with that changing, eventually, that's what's going to really affect the sales of a lot of those products. That's a big complaint right now that we see, and it's also a big reason why the illicit market in Canada is still thriving, is unfortunately for many people, especially people who actually are using these products for pain relief for real medical reasons, going to the recreational market and getting the low dose versions of these products that are available right now is a huge waste of time and also a huge waste of money because those products aren't cheap anyways. So like I said, I think that by having more of these recreational brands start joining up with programs like the Medical Cannabis by Shoppers, hopefully, like I said, that's going to only better inform politician and regulation makers to actually understand the real value of higher dose edibles and next generation products. Looking next at WeedMD Incorporated, who announced that it's entered into a supply agreement with Pax Labs, a leader in the premium cannabis vaporizer technology with award-winning devices for both oil and flower. And WeedMD will become a brand partner and supplier for the Pax Era collection in Canada, which includes the closed-loop Pax Era and the Era Pro devices. Now, WeedMD's partnership with PAX will accelerate the growth of the company's Cannabis 2.0 product strategy as it expands into new formats using its low-cost, quality-produced, strain-specific biomass. And as the latest cultivator to launch the PAX Era pods in Canada, WeedMD will produce cannabis oil pods for the pen and pod vaporizer devices at the company's state-of-the-art extraction hub in Aylmer, Ontario. As we continue to enhance and expand our new cannabis formats and brands reach for Color and Starseed, we're proud to partner with PAX as we're looking forward to adding its lineup of growing portfolio of 2.0 brands, said Angelo Tselbas, the CEO of WeedMD. Now, PAX is widely known as a premier innovator in cannabis product vaporizers, and with its award-winning brand appeal and consumer-favorite hardware offerings, PAX is perfectly suited to be paired with WeedMD's quality-produced terpene-rich cannabis concentrates. And PAX is thrilled to welcome WeedMD as a leader in the medical cannabis channel in Canada and our Canadian brand partner family, said Tim Pellerin, the general manager of Canada and International at PAX Labs. Now, WeedMD has a record of delivering high-quality, novel products to patients and consumers in varied consumption methods. We look forward to growing together across all channels, rooted in our shared rigor in quality, innovation, and access to information to bring these products to medical and adult use consumers across the country. Now, the PAX Era pods are for use with the PAX's high-tech oil vaporizers are dependable, leak-resistant, and designed to be clog-free. And PAX is currently a market leader with over 2 million devices sold worldwide and an established reputation as the best-selling pen and pod system in the U.S. So I've talked a lot about the PAX Era pods and sort of their combinations with certain companies. I was definitely doubtful at the start of this launch because the big issue that I have with the PAX Era as a device is that no universality. So almost every other distillate tip that's coming out into the market is a 510 thread adaptable tip. These work with a variety of different pen battery options. The PAX Era pods only work with the PAX Era devices. Now, that was definitely somewhat of a risky move, but I think PAX obviously read the landscape much better than I did, which is realizing that there was no competition coming out. No one has produced any quality 510 thread batteries that get close to rivaling the PAX Era device. I've tried the PAX Era devices. I know many other people who have. And unfortunately, they're just far superior to anything that's out on the market right now. And really what you're seeing with a lot of the 510 thread batteries is a lot of cheap garbage. Most of it is extremely low quality, very limited battery use and battery life, and a lot of duds just going out onto the market. And as more and more people have tried these poor quality 510 thread batteries, yes, they are cheap, yes, they are available. I think a lot more people now, and I've seen this firsthand many a time, where more people are looking for what's reliable and what's actually worth maybe $80 or $100 spend to have a device that'll last you a couple of years versus a couple of months. So lots of people are moving to the PAX Era, and as PAX has now partnered with more and more companies, WeedMD, just to list one right now, but they've already had distribution deals with several other cannabis producers, and they only seem to be expanding that. And I think that that's now a good move for both the producers and for PAX, is that they've built out enough of a reputation for consumers to realize these products aren't crap. They're worth the money that they're going to be paying, and that, give it another year, there's going to be enough pod options to have a huge variety where people won't really be missing out from switching to a PAX device and not having those 510 thread cartridge options. So I do think that for right now, PAX Era is definitely going to continue to lead this market with their pod devices. And there could be at some point, what I see is going to be more likely is that actually other companies are going to try to mimic PAX. And I think that you're going to have a few other companies creating some sort of pod-based device that will be similar to the PAX Era pods. Again, within the cannabis space, it's really hard to actually control intellectual property and designs because there's not a lot of bodies of, governance that actually will regulate this industry. So I do think that PAX Era device style is going to get hacked within the next couple of months, and then you're going to see a few other companies come out with similar pod styles, and similar to what we even saw within the nicotine vape world, where it's been moving away from freebase juice to then salt nic devices, and now to the salt nic pods. I think that the cannabis industry is going to follow a very similar trend where eventually you're just going to have these closed loop pods. Makes it way easier for the consumers. There's no leakage, there's no difficulty, and there is no ability then to try to refill these pods or ruin the pods, which is what a lot of people have done with those 510 thread tips, is people have been putting in their own oils. That's where you're leading to a lot of the health issues, a lot of the difficulties with the devices working properly. So again, I do think that when you're looking at the 510 thread distillate area, Pax Era has kind of dominated, and I think will continue to until someone else can sort of replicate their same closed loop system. Next, looking at Waterway Technology, who announced it's received several orders to deliver degradable plastic mulch to consumers in Canada and North Africa. And the mulch will be used to increase soil moisture conservation, thereby reducing water usage and related costs. Now, the order totaling 1.2 million Canadian is to be delivered in the next 6 months, of which 488,000 of orders due to North Africa are conditional and the company receiving an irrevocable letter of credit from the purchaser. Now, Ohad Hebar, the chairman and chief executive officer, commented, "I compliment our Canadian managing director, John Paul, for the hard work he's done to obtain these orders, a tribute to the professional work he continues to produce. And we see this line of business complementary to our irrigation business, assuming us delivering unique technology to farmers around the world." Now, I've talked a lot about the difficulty when it comes to water usage within the cannabis industry. Waterways technology, definitely a type of technology that can really help assist with that. That obviously does depend on how you're growing, whether it's indoor or outdoor. But it's another type of example of hopefully the type of sort of green conservation technologies that will start to be innovated within the cannabis space. And waterway technologies, even just as an aside, I do really appreciate the idea of focusing on soil moisture conservation, especially in Africa. That would be a real sort of benefit to that country, is to be able to have some sort of more technologically advanced ability to combat desertification, which is obviously the biggest issue when you're looking at African agriculture. So hopefully you'll see some of this get adopted within the outdoor grows, looking at like Oregon, parts of Canada, Nevada, different areas, and obviously in Israel and South America. But I don't know if that will get mass adopted, as I've said before, with a lot of these green and renewable energy and conservation technologies that get sort of tossed around within the cannabis space. Still, it's only small and few companies that are actually adopting these strategies. A lot of the large scale producers still have a big problem with waste and conservation. Lastly, today, looking at Flower One Holdings, who today announced preliminary third quarter revenue of 11.5 million, surpassing its third quarter 2020 revenue guidance range between 9.8 and 10.8 million. And the company continues to expect its third quarter 2020 gross margin to be in line with its previous guidance of 30 to 35%. So some of the highlights included year-to-date gross sales through the month ending September 30th of this year of approximately 24.2 million. 3 months ending of September 30th of approximately 11.4 million in gross sales. The initial launch of Cookies and 22 Red, further demonstrating the company's ability and ongoing priority to transition its product revenue mix towards premium quality and higher gross margin sales, as well as a few other product launches. Now, BDS Analytics recently reported that the August point of sales data for the cannabis market in Nevada experienced a 34% year-over-year growth, and Nevada exhibited a surprisingly strong recovery despite limited tourism capacity. And year-to-date retail sales in the state of Nevada through August 31st reached 505.8 million, growing by 10% compared to the same period last year. Now, these past few months have demonstrated Flower One's resilience and ability to reemerge through COVID-19 with momentum, as evidenced by our strong preliminary quarterly revenue, said Ken Velazar, the president and chief executive officer of Flower One. Now, the company continues to increase its market penetration by providing our retail partners with a consistent supply of some of the highest quality products and premium brands available in the Nevada market. Subsequent to the quarter end, the company also announced the achievement of certain operational milestones, including the implementation of the brand partner Lift Ticket's proprietary pre-rolling technology and process, the signing of Nature's Lab, an award-winning concentrate producer, as both the brand partner and SOP consultant for further increase and acceleration of both quality and capabilities, as well as the launch of the previously announced brand partner Heavy Hitters with the shipment of its first order to retail. So Flower One really giving a good highlight of what's going on in Nevada. That market continues to move forward and have pretty strong sales, again, despite drops in tourism, despite a lot of other difficulties affecting the economy within the Nevada market. The cannabis sales and the cannabis industry continues to progress forward. And I think that this is really what I've been talking about for a little while now, and a lot of other companies have been pushing out into their news, which is that, especially looking at Nevada, California, and a few of the other well-established markets in the U.S. Sales are going to maintain strength, and you're going to continue to see expansion of these markets over the next year, despite what's going on with COVID-related issues. These businesses don't look to be closing anytime soon. A lot of the retail infrastructure has actually improved and become a lot easier for consumers to gain access to these products, whether through online sales, through delivery, through curbside pickup, through kiosks. Nevada is one of the markets that I've talked a lot about before that has probably the biggest kiosk setup retail-wise compared to some of the other markets. There's lots of no contact with bud tenders or having to have basically touchless options for a lot of their purchases. And as well, it's also a market where a lot of the suppliers and a lot of the producers are only expanding and growing because they started small and didn't sort of overdo it on the initial startups, which we've seen a lot in Canadian markets. We've seen in California as well, and in certain other markets where these producers sort of oversell themselves on their first couple of years and then run into issues later on. A lot of the companies moving to Nevada and a lot of the companies in there, like a Flower One, are really focusing on premium, on new product offerings, on different product variations. And it's quite a competitive market. So a lot of the consumers who are looking there actually do seem to be quite well versed within the cannabis space and actually seem to be quite differentiating between quality of products and what they're actually looking for. So I think it's going to continue to be a great test product zone, which it has been over the last year. And obviously the retail sales look strong and will hopefully maintain that over the next year so that a lot of those companies can continue to expand and continue to create new products, which will then be launched hopefully into other markets. That's all for today's podcast. And once again, today's podcast was sponsored by Cannabis Swiss Corporation, trading on the OTC as CSUI, a fully licensed cannabis cultivation and distribution company in Switzerland for recreational tobacco products and medical CBD oils. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.